There was some videos and claims floating around out there recently talking about Spider-Man, his involvement with the MCU, outside the MCU, and the huge changes they have to make for the MCU to be able to use the character. So I'm going to address some of those with some of the things I've heard and some of the things I've talked to people about, and hopefully we can figure something out. So, it should go without saying that every iteration of Spider-Man that's been in live action is not close to the comic books. I don't think I have to stress that out, but obviously if you just look at the 3 live action iterations, and even if you look at the live action TV series we've had before, they're not really there, right? That's not the comic book version. They're each taking massive liberties with this. If you look at the Raimis, Gwen Stacy was not his first love interest. There was a whole shift to his character, the suit, the web fluid, all of that was changed. Amazing Spider-Man, from the suit to the characters to the villains, everything was changed. MCU Spider-Man, again, the suit, the villains, everything is changed, the supporting cast. So there was a video recently that was talking about this, saying that Marvel Studios cannot use certain versions of characters that have appeared before. For example, using an older Aunt May. And this isn't entirely true. They can do whatever they want with these characters, they just cannot use the characters that have been used previously. Just so we're clear on this. To a degree. So let me try to simplify this without kind of blowing people's minds and getting too confusing. If they wanted to, they could go all the way back to the Raimi movies and go, well, we like that actor for what he did for Norman Osborn. Willem Dafoe is great. Bring him back as Norman Osborn. They can do that, but he cannot be the same character that was in those films. So he would just have to be a new iteration. Now, where these claims, I think, kind of lose track of what they're doing is the fact that saying that they can't use anything that's been done before. They just used J. Jonah Jameson as the same character. He's J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons. So that automatically disproves everything that was said in regards to everything else. Now, they also claim that there's certain problems with the character rights, like MJ, for example. Why she has to be like this as opposed to that. And the reality there is, it's kind of non-existent. We know that Kevin Feige and Sony agreed very early on that they wanted to tell a more contemporary story of modern day New York and the characters in it than what the previous films did. When you look at New York, if you look at any given school, you're gonna notice pretty much every type of person you can imagine. It's not just white people as far as the eye can see. They were trying to address that. So for their version of MJ, they went for Michelle, aka MJ. You look at Tasm, they were going for a more Ultimates version up until they decided not to use her. The Raimi films did that version, right? Then the Raimi film did Gwen Stacy. Not exactly comic book at all. Tasm did a more comic book accurate version of Gwen Stacy. MCU has Betty Brant, who at one point we kind of know was supposed to be Gwen Stacy, but they were like, nah, just make her Betty Brant, whatever it is. So you're starting to see all of these disconnects and connects that are happening here. It's not that they can't use the certain characters, they can, they just don't want to a degree, and they could bring any actor back if they wanted to. That's why they keep saying if they wanted to do the multiverse, they could. Which brings me to my final point. Certain elements of the Spider-Man Sony license cannot be used without a ton of agreement from various different people. That's why the Raimi suit took so long to get to Marvel Spider-Man on PS4. So another example I can give you right now is if you look at the Marvel Spider-Verse event, every Spider-Man ever appeared. From the live-action TV series to the Japanese one with the mech, everything appeared. Besides 2, Amazing Spider-Man and Raimi, because Marvel did not have the license to put their likeness and their version into the comic. They are mentioned though as being off-screen by saying that they look like the actors from 2 certain films, Seabiscuit and Social Network. So if you've seen those 2 films, you know who they're talking about. But Marvel could not go out there to Sony and try to get those because there'd be so many more headaches to go over. The rights to Spider-Man are a little bit more complex than most Marvel characters due to so many different parties owning parts of them, such as Sony, Amy Pascal, Avi Arad, Marvel Comics, Stan Lee's estate, and various other people. So hopefully this kind of simplifies everything for you guys. It's not as clear-cut as they have to forcefully change everything, because that's not true. They changed it because to a degree they have to, because it has to be a new iteration, but they're not limited to having to change everything to the point where it's not recognizable. That's a creative choice. And another point I do have to address is, where do these characters go? Can they show up anywhere else? No. Marvel Studios Spider-Man can show up in Marvel Studios and anything Marvel Studios is gonna do with Marvel in the future. Another Spider-Man event? Tom Holland can show up in a Spider-Verse. He might show up in the next comic Spider-Verse. We don't know. That's possible because Marvel, Disney. But the other way around, Sony trying to do something on their own and having Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man appear in their franchise, that is guaranteed not happening. So hopefully you understood everything I said. Hopefully I explained it. It's been like a 6.5 minute video of me talking straight to the camera. But yeah, hopefully you guys understand it now.